Hi, I'm Elizabeth with Wallace Yarn Creations. Today I'd like to introduce a friend of mine, Hilary Latimer. She is a knitting designer and author, and we have collaborating for over 10 years. In case you're not familiar with Hilary's designs, let me show you a few examples. She's creating beautiful shawls. So this is a shawl called Black Dahlia. Beautiful, almost a crescent, I guess. Lace and stockinette, knitted with only one skein. Then we have one that's called Pumpkin Spice. A little bit bigger shawl since it takes two skeins. And Hilary designed this, was for Christmas one year, right? Or for Thanksgiving?
Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm.
Yes, Thanksgiving would make sense for Thanksgiving. So this is Pumpkin Spice. And this one is called Whisper of Fall. Really cool shawl. Mixes some colors and some different stitches. So lots of different stuff going on in this. So we have been knowing each other for 10 years and we have been working a lot together. So how you've designed so many shawls, how do you ever come up with new ideas and keep on creating?
Well, actually, there's 4 different ways I do this, generally speaking. The first one is a pattern walks into my head, like Black Dahlia. I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and I walked into your booth at the Southeastern Animal Fiber Festival, and there was the yarn that I wanted to pick. So it just all came together. I think I even cast on in the hotel room that night. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. So that's the first way. The second way is I think about the calendar. What time of year is it? Is it spring? Is it summer? Is it fall? And I want to tell a story. And that's what I did with Pumpkin Spice.
Yeah, so that was
and again, you had the perfect yarn for it. It was the right color. And each band of that tells a different story. It's a little hard to see
if
on
I can
the screen.
show this. Yeah,
there we go.
Each section has different stitches. Yes.
Right. Yes. So that's a storytelling one. And I really loved that yarn. It was the silk and cotton.
Yeah, cotton silk merino. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful drape, knitted up great. I had the best time doing that one. And the third way I get ideas is I want to play with an interesting shape. And I might want to use 2 different colors, which is what I did with a Whisper of Fall. So that's called a gull wing shape. It fits on you beautifully. There's none of that sort of bunching up, around the front of your neck or under the back of your hair. And it's 2 skeins, very different colors.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought that these, let me see how I can show this, 2 totally different colors, how they would look together. I don't think they
side by side, they didn't look like they would work.
Yeah, these are, I mean, really, really different. One is blue lime and the other one is magenta. I mean, really, really different colors. But it looks amazing put together. So you really have an eye for combining stuff.
And it's a lot bigger, of course.
Yeah, I mean, yes.
Yeah. So the fourth way I design a shawl, I do them in the fall every year. My New Year's Eve shawl, a mystery knit along, and they are enormous. That's the first thing.
Hold on, what is a mystery knit along? Sorry.
A regular knit along, which you'll see usually spelled out KAL for knit along. You already know what the pattern is ahead of time. And a bunch of your friends or you and the designer, you all knit the item together. You'll see that, for instance, on the knit for your local yarn shop event or something like that. Now, a mystery knit is completely different. You have no idea what you're knitting, literally. So I'll tell you, you need 2,000 yards of yarn in a specific weight. Like I might say you need 2 skeins of Elizabeth's yarn in XYZ color. I tell you the needle size. I usually give you a range because everybody has different tension. And then I tell you we're knitting a shawl. And that is a mystery knit along. Each week you get a new clue, which will be a segment of the pattern. And they're the most fun. You have tons of people all knitting together. We have spoiler threads up on Ravelry in our groups. It's just a lot of fun.
So you said you're getting a section of the pattern every week. You email them, or how do I get them?
Okay, yeah, they get notified on Ravelry and through email, and I forget what the third way is. That's terrible.
So people sign up beforehand, and then you get the pattern basically in installments.
Right, you purchase the pattern. Usually I have kits, and there'll be like a order the kit by, so that you can, get them to them before it begins. And then a specific time, generally speaking, at the stroke of midnight on New Year's Eve for me, you will get the first clue. Before you get the clue, you'll get a welcome letter, which goes over all kinds of things that you might need to know. You might need to do a little sample first so you can check your gauge. Cool. And yeah, that's pretty much what we do. And my New Year's Eve knit-alongs start somewhere on planet Earth at midnight. So they're not always where I live. They could be anywhere on the planet. So it kind of adds to the tension. Nobody really knows when we're going to cast on.
So, and all this is happening on Ravelry. You have a big group on Ravelry called Criminal Knits. That's where it's happening.
That's where it's happening. We also have links in Elizabeth's group.
Yes, and if anybody is interested in joining you, I try to send out announcements of an upcoming knit along or mystery knit along beforehand. So if you sign up for my newsletter, I try to let you know in advance that there's enough time to sign up, to get yarn if needed.
Yeah, I usually run advertisements along the bottom of group pages, so you'll see it there. And also, if you just check in and out on my group on Criminal Knits, I usually have a calendar of events that are upcoming.
Yes, so Criminal Knits is a place to be. So once the mystery knit along is finished, you publish the pattern with the whole thing, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And your patterns, generally speaking, are available either as single patterns, like for example, Black Dahlia was a single pattern published by itself, and you also publish patterns in books.
I do, as a matter of fact.
So tell us about your books.
Well, you can see behind Elizabeth, for instance, there is a blue shawl, which happens to be in this book right here. So these are a group of knitting patterns that I'll have. This one's called Happy Hour. I think the name might be backwards on the screen. My books are available on Amazon in either the paperback like this, and this one over here, A Midsummer Knit Stream, is available as an ebook through Ravelry too. They're both available as ebooks, but this one, all the patterns are actually on Ravelry individually, whereas Happy Hour, they're not, I'm afraid. Hopefully one day.
But you can get them as books, right? So they are available as paperbacks. Beautiful photographs. So they're available as paperbacks on Amazon.
Right. Like this is one of the ones, I don't know that you can see. I have very bad lighting. This is with Elizabeth yarn. It's called Bailey's.
Yes, and we have actually a color called Bailey's to match that shawl. And of course, it's named after the drink, which we all like.
Absolutely.
You have been designing for a long time. You have published, I don't know how many knitting books. I mean, you have more books than those two.
Right.
But you also are an author. You write novels, I mean, which is so cool. So tell us about how you got started. I mean, jumping from designing is already difficult to imagine for me, but writing a book on top of, I mean, how do you do that?
Well, originally I wrote a short story that went with a pattern that I had done. This was a very long time ago, maybe 10 years ago. And then about 6 years ago, I think 5-6 years ago, I was sitting in the coffee shop having coffee with my future editor. And we were talking about different varieties of books that people enjoyed reading. And she asked me, why have you not written a knitting mystery? And I said, I didn't know they existed. So we went to the library together. We got out 10 or 11 books and we sat down and we read them. And to be honest, I was completely horrified. So my takeaway was almost all these books center around a middle-aged lady who, for some unknown reason, does not like men. She has a sort of very old-fashioned, maybe dumpy old knit shop. And she spends a lot of time making tea and dusting and vacuuming. And my thought was, why does anybody want to read this? So I thought, I'm going to reinvent the genre and write it from my point of view, which is as a designer. And instead of wanting to know who stole Mabel's yarn or who killed Mabel, I want to kill off the designers, the knit teachers, the dyers. So,
Oh, no.
so that's what I set out to do.
So the books actually deal with knitting and deal with yarn. It's not just
Right.
impacting.
No, they're set at yarn events. So my first book, which is called Malice in Wonderland, it's set at a fiber festival, which I know everybody wants to go to after they've read the book, but it is invented. And it features a fashion show, which you might see if you've been to Vogue. And the main characters are actually two FBI agents whose girlfriends are the knitters. And of course, the guys know nothing about knitting, so they're pretty hilarious. And the Fiber Festival is outside with tents, which you might see if you've been to any of the shows, you know, in whatever state you live in, they probably have outdoor shows. And needless to say, our heroine and her boyfriend and another friend of theirs stumbles over a dead body, as it turns out, a knitting designer. And it takes off from there. And this book in particular, well, actually, a lot of this idea came while I was in Elizabeth's booth at the Southeast Animal Fiber Festival. So you're going to see a lot of characters in there that we see every single year when we're in Asheville. And people
that sounds really, and I've read that book, so I know it doesn't only sound cool, it is a really cool book. So, but you have written several, right? So is it a series or are those standalone books? I mean, if somebody hasn't read any of them, what do you recommend?
You could absolutely read them one at a time. You get to know a bit more about the characters if you read them in order. So for the knitting game mysteries, Malice in Wonderland is the first one. And the second one came out in March of last year, and it's called The Dyeds of March. And in it, I have great pleasure of killing a dyer.
I mean, I'm not going to take offense here, and I love your titles, and I love the cover. So
the cover's really fun. Cool. And the setting for this one is what's called a dye event. So these do happen in places like Virginia, which is the setting for the story. There are 3 dyers who are opening up their dye studios to give classes and to sell fiber. And naturally, the very first place they go to, they find the dyer dead. So that's a lot of fun. And there's a lot of information in there about dyeing and dye classes. The main characters actually take a dye class or 2 while solving the mystery. So we get to find out a lot of different things about dyeing. And I did talk to various dyers, so I have apologies in there to them because I took a lot of liberties, let's say. And then we have a standalone with the same characters, and this actually, I'm afraid to say, is my favorite. It's called Dancing in the Dark. It also started life as a short story, and it takes place in Los Angeles. And it's a little bit darker than a cozy, but it is basically still a cozy mystery. And
so Dancing in the Dark is standalone, and the other 2 are kind of like a series.
Yeah, the other 2 are part of the knitting game series, and this is an FBI knitting game mystery spinoff. Okay. So the same characters, but they're doing more FBI things with a lot less knitting.
Cool.
There's some knitting in it, but it's not set at a like the first one's at a fiber festival, the second one's at a dye crawl, and then there's my new book, which is set at a knitting retreat. And I'm doing edits and rewrites right now. And that's actually set in Scotland at a private estate. And I'm not going to tell you who dies in that one.
But it's a knitting retreat. So that
it is a knitting retreat. Yes.
That is super cool. And that's coming out this spring, you said? Or
it's coming out in spring. I had my fingers and toes crossed for this month for April. Not 100% sure that's actually going to work. but definitely the spring, early summer. Yeah. And there's
Okay,
a lot of things you'll see if you go to a knitting retreat. You're going to feel very comfortable because you know what's going on with one little thing you've probably never had at a knitting retreat besides a dead body.
Cool.
You might have had a dead body.
So, and of course, once it's published, it will be available on Amazon like all the other books.
Yes.
And they are all available as paperbacks and in Kindle format,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely.
So, and once it's published, I will put it in the newsletter that we can all order our copies. Something
And
to
then
look forward to.
I will be at 2 fiber festivals with Elizabeth coming up this fall, and I'll have copies of the books with me.
Yes. That was another thing I was going to mention. So assuming life gets back to normal and we will have fiber festivals in the fall, we do regular book signings in my group usually, where Hilary is available to sign personal copies and
to get new ideas for my next book.
Exactly. I mean,
this is a lot of ideas.
The sky is the limit. So looking forward to seeing your next knitting design and your next knitting book, of course. So let us know when the 4th novel is
I will,
available.
absolutely.
And we'll probably do a mystery knit along sometime this summer, maybe.
It'll be a tie-in to the new book.
Cool. That sounds wonderful. So lots to look forward to, and we hope to see you all in the fall at various cyber festivals up and down the East Coast, basically. And Hilary will join us whenever she can. And as I said, I will put all that information in newsletters as well as in our Ravelry group that we know when you will be where. So that was cool. Thank you, Hilary, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It was great.
And looking forward to your next book. Thank you.
Thank you.